this week's Baseline, impact of Typhoon Yagi on Vietnam, economic damage and recovery efforts. And Vietnam's economy on track for growth target despite Typhoon Yagi. Hello there, you're tuning into Baseline on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng. This week's program delves into the aftermath of Typhoon Yagi, the most powerful storm to hit Vietnam in 3 decades. According to the Ministry of Planning and Investment, Typhoon Yagi has affected 26 localities, accounting for 41% of the nation's GDP and 40% of its population. The extent of the damage is still being evaluated, with several critical sectors bearing the brunt of the storm's wrath. In response, the government is taking decisive action, directing ministries and agencies to craft comprehensive recovery plans aimed at revitalizing the economy. Join us as we take a closer look at the impact of Typhoon Yagi on Vietnam, examining the economic damage and the ongoing recovery efforts in the following clip.
Typhoon Yagi was an exceptionally strong storm, resulting in significant losses of human lives and property. Preliminary estimates place the damages caused by Yagi at approximately 3.39 billion USD, with public infrastructure and major local facilities being severely impacted. In response to the aftermath of the storm, the government issued Resolution 143, outlining key tasks to urgently address the consequences of Typhoon Yagi. This includes efforts to stabilize the lives of affected individuals, focusing on fiscal and monetary solutions.
We think it is crucial for authorities to showcase the country's capacity in handling natural disasters. Economic acceleration measures to reduce supply chain disruptions and the safety of the population in recovery plan are most important.
The finance and banking sector has swiftly implemented various measures, such as restructuring debts for impacted businesses and families, maintaining their debt classification, and continuing to provide loans. Additionally, tax fee and payment deferrals have been introduced to enhance cash flow for businesses and households, aiding in the restoration of production.
Giảm ngay 1% cho các khoản vay dài hạn và 0,5% cho các khoản vay ngắn hạn, tùy theo cái mức độ ảnh hưởng về tài chính của khách hàng. Với các cái khoản vay tín chấp cũng có những cái chương trình rất là ưu đãi. Sau đấy thì chúng tôi còn giảm sâu hơn là khoảng 4% với cái việc mà các khách hàng mà vay mới, các khoản vay mới thì cũng có chính sách giảm 1%.
Chúng tôi sẽ hỗ trợ khách hàng cơ cấu lại nợ và gia hạn nợ khoảng 1 năm. Sau đó chúng tôi sẽ cân đối tiếp tình hình tài chính và khả năng trả nợ của khách hàng, giúp khách hàng có thể vượt qua khó khăn và tránh tình trạng là khách hàng bị đình trệ sản xuất kinh doanh cũng như là không trả được nợ cho khách hàng và rơi vào tình trạng nợ xấu.
To date, banks have issued loans to 84,500 individuals affected by storms and floods, totaling approximately 208 million USD. Typhoon Yagi has caused significant damage across various regions. As a result, the government plans to further assess the situation and introduce targeted support packages for specific industries and sectors to facilitate the restoration of production and business activities.
We are pleased to welcome Board Member of Vietnam, Mr. Chris Jeffrey, and Managing Director of Economica Vietnam, Dr. Lê Duy Bình, to our studio. They will join us to discuss the impact of Typhoon Yagi on Vietnam and its economic repercussions, the recovery efforts underway. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you.
Typhoon Yagi and its aftermath have caused considerable damage to infrastructure and disrupted agricultural production in several northern provinces. So what are your thoughts on the potential impact of this storm on Vietnam's economic outlook in the near term?
I think it'll be short term. So I think the impact will happen. It has been devastating. But what has actually shown is that Vietnam, the government, the people are working together to get over it and to get back to normal as quickly as possible. I think impacts of the environment and change of climate is affecting the whole world. And I think Vietnam is probably one of the most effective at recovery.
We would see that there would be the damage that has been wreaked to the public asset, You see the infrastructure that has been damaged. The road has been damaged in 26 provinces in Vietnam, especially in provinces like Quảng Ninh or Hải Phòng. The irrigation system for agriculture production and the power system, we see the outage of the electricity in many provinces. Apart from that, the business sector also affected. So many of the enterprise in these provinces have stopped production for a few weeks. So it has affected the production in the countries. But yeah, I agree with Chris that it has been short term, and economic statistics for the first 9 months have proven that the economy has been slowing down a little bit, but we are well on track of achieving high growth for this year. And the economic growth in other part of the country has compensated for the damage that has been seen in these provinces. So I agree that it has some damage, but with all the effort that the government is trying, and with all the effort that the business sector, the people is striving for, I think that this difficulty would be overcome, and we can have improve a lot in the coming months.
How would you evaluate the government's recovery policies following Typhoon Yagi?
Right after the typhoon hit with the country, and only 3 days after the government issued a resolution, and the resolution number 143, and it outlined the key measures to recover from the typhoon. So it is very swift, and it is very quick response by the government. And the resolution outlines many key measures for them, like how to recover from the storm. And it puts the first emphasis on saving the people's life, restoring the livelihood of the people in the area that is most affected by the typhoon. Apart from that, the government also lay a strong emphasis on the recovery of the business sector. Measures like to defer the tax payment for some of the business that has been affected by the business, restore the infrastructure, especially in an area where the business is very active.
The government's speed of reaction not only saved lives and got the country going in the right direction, it also gave people the confidence to work together to get it solved. From an international perspective, the input of international funding, yet again, was quick. It was a very coordinated approach. But I think that gave people the determination, that gave business the confidence to know that recovery would happen and they would be supported directly and indirectly through infrastructure. And Vietnam, again, is actually very good at coming to grips with these things and developing policies and implementing the policies. So it's not just talk, it's action. And I think that's fantastic.
Currently, all major industrial parks in northern provinces and cities affected by Typhoon Yagi have resumed operations. Many FDI enterprises have scheduled overtime shifts to compensate for production disruptions, ensuring order fulfillment and sustained growth. In the aftermath of Typhoon Yagi, this technology company concentrated on completing final preparations for the scheduled launch of its new facility.
Được sự hỗ trợ của địa phương, chúng tôi rất yên tâm. Việc đưa nhà máy vào hoạt động vào cuối tháng 9 này của chúng tôi không bị gián đoạn, sẵn sàng tăng tốc sản xuất cuối năm.
Realized FDI in Vietnam over the past 8 months is estimated at 14.15 billion USD, the highest in 5 years. Despite challenges from natural events, several localities secured billions of dollars in new investment commitments in September.
Quảng bá đối với nhà đầu tư bằng rất nhiều hình thức, vừa là trên mạng, vừa là các tài liệu, vừa là thông qua các hiệp hội, gặp gỡ, hội thảo, triển khai các cái cuộc họp chuyên đề.
Xuất khẩu của chúng ta tăng 16%, trong đó khu vực FDI tăng gần 14%, chỉ số PMI là liên tục trong 5 tháng đứng trên 50 điểm. Điều đó chứng tỏ là cái lượng đặt hàng cũng như là cái hoạt động về sản xuất của Việt Nam đang trên đà mở rộng rất là mạnh mẽ.
This year, Vietnam aims to attract 39 to 40 billion USD in FDI, double the current level. International organizations have demonstrated strong investor confidence in Vietnam's business climate, backed by FDI inflows, combined with the government's determination to achieve 7% GDP growth.
FDI enterprises play a vital role in sustaining supply chain. Now, can you share insights on the current recovery status of production within these companies?
There are delays. Okay, some businesses have been affected more than others. It depends what sector you are and what province you're in. But I think it is getting back. And from a British business community, we haven't heard of any major long-term issues. And I haven't heard from other chambers and other business communities about long-term concerns. I think the recovery from an international business perspective is going well.
I think that FDI companies in provinces like Quảng Ninh or Haiphong has been suffering a little bit for a few weeks because of the electricity outage. But the electricity supply has been resumed very quickly in a very short time. So it also helped the FDI sector a lot in the last few weeks. And they resumed the production very quickly. And actually, if you look at the statistics by the Ministry of Land Investment and the export by the FDI sector in the month of September, slightly slow. But overall, for the production for the whole quarter, the export of the whole FDI sector is still on the increase. In Q3 of this year, the FDI has increased both in terms of registered capital, implementation capital, the disbursement of the FDI capital. We can hope that the FDI will continue to be higher for this year.
Have the recent challenges affected the production targets and the ability of FDI companies to meet their export commitments this year?
The recent figures in the recent weeks after the Yagi typhoon hit the country, and we see that the production has been resumed and the export has been increasing over the week. So all this have been showing that the FDI sector is still aiming at the higher target for export for this year. And they are working around the clock. I think that in these weeks, in order to meet the higher demand from the international market for Vietnamese products and services, which is becoming higher and higher in the coming months, thanks to Christmas time and also thanks to the New Year time that is coming.
Yeah. And I agree entirely. I think Vietnam, again, and the FDI and the workers are working together, so working overtime to make up for any losses of production. And again, the response has been amazing in terms of factories, employers, employees working to make sure that the commitments the companies have made are met.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh recently signed Official Dispatch 100, urging ministries and local authorities to swiftly implement measures to restore agricultural production affected by Typhoon Yagi. The natural disaster has cost the sector $1.28 billion in losses. In response, many localities have proactively prepared for the upcoming winter crops.
Động viên bà con bảo thôi thì cố gắng là bắt đầu cấy ngô đông. Thế này cũng may mắn là ở huyện cũng quan tâm và ở xã cũng quan tâm là cũng cho cái giống ngô về. Bây giờ bà con đang cắt rạ đấy, đang cắt rạ là chuẩn bị cấy.
35 banks have allocated $16.31 billion for new loans and interest rate reductions to support individuals and businesses affected by Typhoon Yagi. Besides financial aid, farmers are also provided with breeding animals and farming materials.
Chúng tôi giảm tối đa hàng trăm đối với những khách hàng cũ và dành gói 8.000 tỷ cho những khách hàng vay mới, xuống trực tiếp tới khách hàng để thu nhận cũng như tư vấn trong quá trình làm hồ sơ để làm sao thu thập hồ sơ một cách nhanh chóng nhất.
Các doanh nghiệp mong muốn hỗ trợ cho bà con nông dân tại các địa phương bằng vật tư, bằng giống, bằng thức ăn, bằng thuốc sát trùng khử trùng để phục vụ cho tái sản xuất. Chúng tôi sẽ phân bổ cho các địa phương để làm sao đi đến đúng địa chỉ, đúng người dân.
Natural disasters have not only taken away property, but also dashed hopes for a bountiful harvest. However, with the determination of local authorities and the resilience of people, this crop will certainly bear fruit.
The agricultural sector has faced significant challenges due to Typhoon Yagi. In your opinion, what support measures are essential for this sector to recover effectively?
Obviously, the agriculture sector was most affected by the Typhoon Yagi. There need to be the support in terms of bank credit to them by restructure the loan or reschedule the loan that they are borrowing from the banks, or by measures like the government support using the different mechanism by providing support to farmers in the different ways, by providing seed or by providing the new credit in order for them to build the new farms or to recover the land and the soil that they are producing, supporting the fertilizers, reconnecting them with the supply chain, and also recover all the irrigation system, the infrastructure for agriculture production. That is both the role of the government and also the role of the business sectors. But more than that, I think that there would be measures in order to have the farmers to build a kind of climate resilient farming technique in order for them to be more prepared for the future disaster, because we live in a country that is very vulnerable to natural disaster.
And can I just add, I think one of the key aspects is about the wider environment, deforestation, about making sure the whole country takes it into account. People need to take that broader approach as well, but that's more of a long-term one. We've got to sort out the problems now for the farmers, etc. But taking that long-term view and bringing in a kind of whole concept, a whole climate concept, is probably the way forward.
Now, building on your last point, the World Bank has warned that natural disasters could result in billions of dollars in economic losses for Vietnam. So what strategies do you think Vietnam should implement to enhance its resilience to disasters and adapt to climate change?
Natural disaster cost Vietnam about 0.5 to 1.5% of GDP each year. And in order for us to create a kind of more disaster resilient economy or climate resilient economy, in my view, I think that we need to be prepared for that. The business sector are not prepared for the disaster at all. So they only counter it and they also cope with this when it happens. So the government is now putting stronger and stronger efforts on getting the people to be prepared. So the coordination of strategy, the coordination of policy between the different ministries are very important in order to have a better infrastructure, in order for us to have the better reserve, in order for us to have a better strategy to cope with the natural disaster, to respond to natural disaster when it happens. Apart from that, we have to shift to a new economy. I think that what we call is the climate resilient economy. That is an economy that uses less carbon, restructured economy, shifting to a greener economy, make the economy more resilient to climate change, more resilient towards natural disaster. That is another strategy. So finance is very important. Finance here, it can also be from the people, from the business, from the government. So all of these measures can help us to be more prepared, more resilient against climate change, against natural disaster.
I agree entirely, and it's not just one thing. It's not building flood defences. It needs to be a multifaceted approach that includes people, business, politics. So you've got to take an approach that prepares for midterm events, if you like. The investment has to pay off. It has to save lives. It has to protect Vietnam's growth. And I think one of the things is that future investment in infrastructure, whether it's electricity, whether it's water, whether it's roads, whether it's schools, hospitals, needs to be ready for the future.
Typhoon Yagi is estimated to have inflicted over 3.3 billion USDs in losses to Vietnam's economy, resulting in a reduction of 0.15 percentage points in growth. However, due to the government's prompt response measures and recovery efforts from businesses, several key sectors, including exports, industrial production, and foreign investment, have continued to show growth. International organizations indicate that a high growth scenario is entirely achievable.
So Vietnam economic recovery has been quite strong for the first 9 months of the year, especially in the Q2 and also Q3. So that is on track to achieve the target of around 6.5 to 7% that the government has set this year. International trade remained very strong with export increases around 15%. Registered FDI remains strong with the year-to-date of around 24 billion US dollar, up around 11%. We think that the momentums in trade, investment, retail and services remain intact to support economic growth for Vietnam in last quarter of the year.
The growth momentum has been relatively strong. Accommodating monetary policy may also have partly contributed to the continued economic recovery so far this year. Recent monthly macroeconomic indicators, both domestic and external, have been solid, and Vietnam has continued to boast trade surplus. The country may also need to continue to diversify sectors to reduce concentration in the manufacturing sector and attract more FDI from other regions over the medium term.
According to the Global Economics and Market Research Unit of UOB based in Singapore, Vietnam's GDP grew by 7.4% in the third quarter, exceeding the average market forecast of 6.1%. This surprising performance underscores the economy's resilience in the face of the devastation caused by the super typhoon. In light of this growth, the government has set a GDP growth target of 6.8 to 7%, although authorities have acknowledged that meeting this target will be a significant challenge.
Given the socio-economic landscape over the first 9 months of 2024, achieving a GDP growth target of 6.8 to 7% this year presents a significant challenge. What key factors do you think Vietnam should prioritize to achieve this goal?
The country needs to have a long-term investment strategy on infrastructure because FDI will only come in if it can export its goods. And so the infrastructure, whether it's ports, railways, roads, needs to be robust. So investors don't invest for tomorrow. They invest for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So having clarity about where things are going, how much tax, the tax rules, all these things really take a major effect. So the government needs to work on that. Vietnam probably won't beat the target this year, and that's the effect of the typhoon and the damage. But reaching the target is still very achievable throughout the rest of the year.
Our GDP target for this year could have been higher, could have been much better if Yagi would not have happened. But overall, I still believe that we are on good track to achieve the target of 7% for this year. Given all the other evidence that we are having by now, we look at the export and import sector, it is still growing. Yeah, that is the strong demand for Vietnamese products and services. We see that the government public spending is on the right track to achieve like a 90 to 95% for this year. So government spending is also on increase. We also that the private consumption is also on the increase, even though it has not been as high as last year. But the private consumption is still growing, and it could be supported by the income of the people that has been rising in recent months. And we also expect that the private investment is also on the increase. Yeah, we see this kind of signal in the recent months. So for all of this and the stronger demand of the global economy, and with the Fed is cutting the interest rate, and it also probably promise a new round of development. So all of this a very strong demand for Vietnamese market. So we hope that the production of manufacturing sector would be improving in the coming months. And if the interest rate in Vietnam could be reduced in the coming months, and also another thrust, another push for the local economy. So we are expecting that the economy would be recovered and would be back on track very quickly. And we would achieve the target of 7% for this year.
Once again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Now, despite the recent economic challenges posed by Typhoon Yagi, the resilience and adaptability of the Vietnamese economy and its businesses are clear. with an estimated GDP growth of 7.4% in the third quarter and 6.82% over the past 9 months. The government remained committed to its annual growth target of 7%. However, Vietnam still faces numerous hurdles ahead. The government resolved to achieve this goal along with its willingness to consider recommendations and promptly adjust strategies will be crucial in helping the economy navigate these challenges and meet both short-term and long-term growth objectives. And that wraps up this edition of BizLine. Stay with us for more content, or you can always download our app VTV Go from App Store or Google Play for the latest news. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time.